Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was explaining this story to Venkatapati. He said that we can only enter into Krishna's Leela by following in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. Even Lakshmi has to do that. And he explained how Narayan has 60 most essential qualities of his unlimited qualities. But Krishna has 4 that are beyond even Narayan. His Leela, his pastimes, are a limitless, bottomless, shoreless ocean of happiness. His devotees, the gopis, the gopas, their love for him is so unlimitedly deep, so unconditional, that Krishna actually gives them entrance into such a personal relationship where his identity as the absolute truth, as the supreme God of all gods, moves aside, and he becomes their child, their friend, and their lover. And Krishna's flute. There are hundreds and thousands of beautiful poems that describe the sound of Krishna's flute and the effect it has on the devotees' hearts. When Krishna plays his flute, the trees tremble and dance. Sometimes the movable objects become stunned like trees. Sometimes the rocks melt and flow like rivers, and sometimes the rivers become stunned and immovable. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, when Krishna's flute enters into the ear of the gopis, it's like a bird that goes in through their ears and makes a nest so that nothing else could get into the ear, and then goes into their heart and completely steals their hearts. And Krishna's beauty, the charm and the sweetness of his beauty. Even the absolute truth, Narayan, is attracted to Krishna's beauty. Even Krishna is attracted to his beauty. Chaitanya Charitamrita tells a story where Krishna saw a reflection of himself in a jewel pillar and became stunned and intoxicated by his beauty. And then he was thinking that only Radharani might. I am the Vishaya, I am the object of love, but Radharani is the Ashraya Vigraha. She is the abode of love. What does she experience when she sees my beauty? Even I cannot understand that. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the story how at Govardhan, Krishna would perform Ras Leela with the gopis during the spring season. It would usually begin at the Rasa Stali, where he would play his flute, and they would meet together near Chandra Sarovar. And one time, Krishna left all the gopis. And they were searching everywhere for him. He was sitting in a place. Krishna's great-grandson, Vajranath, actually had a deity made or manifest in that very place. It is called Paita, which immortalizes, even to people like us, this pastime. Krishna was sitting, and the gopis were looking for him, and they saw him from a distance, and chanting his names in great separation, weeping and crying, and in such expectation. They were very happy. They were running toward Krishna, and Krishna wanted to run away, but his emotions were so much affected by the gopis that he couldn't move. So he disguised himself. He manifested his form of Narayan. In all majesty, he was sitting with magnificent crowns and jewels and 4 opulent arms carrying the conch shell and the disc and the club and the lotus flower. And when the gopis approached him, they were so disappointed that it wasn't Krishna. They bowed down with great reverence. And they said, "Oh, Lord Narayan, oh, Supreme Personality of Godhead, we offer our obeisances to you. We beg you, please give us one benediction that we're able to find Krishna." Srila Prabhupada explains there, they knew he was God, but they weren't concerned with God. They wanted Krishna. This was the sweetness, the intimacy of their love. And some commentators tell that Lord Narayan wanted, with his 4 arms, he said, that way. So they ran to search for Krishna. And a few moments later, Srimati Radharani approached the Lord. And he was in his Aishwarya Bhav as Narayan, with his 4 arms. And he wanted to play a trick on Srimati Radharani. And he tried with all his powers. What is the power of God? An expansion of an expansion of an expansion of an expansion. Mahavishnu, he just exhales an entire cosmic manifestation, and all the universes are manifest. He inhales and the whole cosmic manifestation goes in his body and everything is finished. That is his power. But before Sri Radha, although he tried to keep those 4 arms, 4 of the arms, just 2 of them disappeared. And she understood he was Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya is telling these pastimes to Venkatapata. And Venkatapata, upon hearing it, he said, I'm really confused. And Lord Chaitanya, seeing him confused, said, actually, Narayan and Krishna are one. There's no difference. And he said, and anyone who, due to their false ego, tries to differentiate the different manifestations of the one supreme truth commits offense. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport explains that the absolute truth is Advaita, is one. but achintya bheda bheda tattva. Within that absolute oneness, there is inconceivable variegatedness eternally. And that one truth, Krishna, he is Ram, he is Narayan, he is Vishnu, he is Narasingha, he is Dwarkadish, he is Mathuranath, he is Govinda Dev, Vrindavan Chandra. They are all one. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he honored Murari Gupta's love for Ram. And he actually deeply honored and was happy with Venkatabat's love for Narayan. But he gave him entrance into the sweetness of Vrindavan. And he said to Venkatabhatta that there is nothing to be anything disturbed about because the absolute truth is one and Narayan and Krishna are identical. Venkatabhatta said, I don't know who is Narayan, I don't know who is Krishna, but I do know that you are Narayan and you are Krishna, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I will follow you. And from this day on, I will worship Radha Krishna in the mood of Vrindavan and follow in the footsteps of Brijbasis. And their little son, Gopal, when he saw the transformations of his father, and he received the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was later to become Gopal Bhatta Goswami. When Lord Chaitanya was about to leave Navadvip to take sannyas, his intention was to come here to where we are in Vrindavan. There's a beautiful story. It is explained quite elaborately in Bhakti Ratnakar. There was a devotee. His name was Lokanath Goswami. He was born in Bangladesh. His birthplace is still there. His father was Padmanam Chakravarti, and his mother's name was Sita. His father was a great devotee. He was a follower and dear friend of the greatest of all the Vaishnavas, Advaitacharya. When Lokanath Goswami was a young man, he left his home because he wanted to be with Lord Chaitanya in Navadvip. And he was part of all those beautiful pastimes in Sri Navadvip. He understood the true identity of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya was his life and his soul. Lord Chaitanya told him privately that he was going to take sannyas and leave Navadvip. Lokanath Goswami's heart was broken. You're going to cut off your beautiful hair? You're going to take off your ornaments and be in the cloth of a simple mendicant? You're going to leave your beloved wife, Vishnu Priya, who's the goddess of fortune, and your mother, Sachi, who has nothing except you in her whole life, and all your friends, Srivas and Advaita and Gadadhar and Nityananda, you're going to leave all of us? He was thinking, how is this? And in his mind, he was tormented he did not want to be in Navadvip when the news came that Lord Chaitanya had left and renounced the world. It would be too painful for him. He couldn't say anything. But Sri Gauranga understood his heart. And he said, Lokanath, you will not survive being here when I take sannyas. But after I take sannyas, I will be going to Vrindavan. So you leave now. Go to Vrindavan, and I will meet you there, and we will be together. Lokanath Goswami's heart was crushed. He wept incessantly. He fell in his full prostrations and took the dust of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. And then, without saying any reason to anyone, he went to every Vaishnav with tears in his eyes and fell at their feet and took their dust. And he left for Vrindavan. He visited many holy places on the way. By foot, he arrived and waited for Lord Chaitanya. He received the news that Lord Chaitanya was actually on his way to Vrindavan to meet him. But he was detoured to Shantipur. And due to the love and the affection of his devotees, all his plans were changed, and now he was living in Puri. So Lokanath Goswami was just ready to go to Puri. But then he heard news that Lord Chaitanya has left Puri and he's gone to South India. Lokanath left Vrindavan barefoot and started walking to South India to find Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, in those days, they didn't have GPS. Or text, where texting Kala Krishnadas, where is Lord Chaitanya? There was no possible way of communication. Can you imagine the faith of Lokanath Goswami? He leaves Vrindavan by foot to go to South India to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is he going to be in Andhra Pradesh or Madhya Pradesh, or is he going to be in Tamil Nadu and Kerala or anywhere? But you see, when devotees are in this state of loving devotional service, nothing's impossible. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would give very difficult things to do. That historical event where the devotees of the BBT, the art department was in New York, part of the department was in Los Angeles, and they were coming out with one book every few months when they were really on marathons. And Srila Prabhupada said, I want 17 volumes, Chaitanya Charitamrita, complete in 2 months. So the head of the BBT said, Prabhupada, that is impossible. Prabhupada's historical words. And he wasn't joking. He said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. You do it. And they did it. It was impossible, but they did it. So when devotees have that enthusiasm to please the Guru and please the Lord, they can transcend material nature in so many ways. So Lokanath Goswami just left. And he walked all the way to South India. But it took him about a year to get there. And the whole time his heart is yearning and longing to be with Lord Chaitanya. And when he arrived in South India, he found out Lord Chaitanya had returned to Puri. So he went to Puri. When he came to the outskirts of Puri, he was told the news that Lord Chaitanya finally, after so many years, after a lifetime of aspiration, he's gone to Vrindavan. And Lokanath Goswami was supposed to be there to meet him. So as far as humanly possible, he rushed to Vrindavan. And finally, he arrived. The one instruction that Lord Gauranga gave him was, be in Vrindavan, I'll come there and we'll be together. And when he arrived here, he was told that Lord Chaitanya, he spent 2 months here. He was at Imlita, chanting his japa every day on the banks of the Jamuna. And he was living at a Kruragat. And he roamed through Mahaban and Katiravan and Bhadravan and Bandiravan and Vrindavan and Kamyavan, Talavan, Madhuvan, Kamudavan. He was everywhere in great ecstasy. He was talking with the cows, his old friends, and with the deers, and with the peacocks, and the monkeys, and the parrots, and the Brijabasis. But he left for Prayag. Lokanath Goswami fainted. He left. He just left. So Lokanath Goswami decided the next morning, I'm leaving for Prayag. But that night, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to him in a dream and said, Lokanath, I want you to stay in Vrindavan for the rest of your life. Very soon, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami will come and meet you here. This is the extent that these devotees had given their lives to please the Lord. He never physically saw Lord Chaitanya again his whole life. He was seeing him in his service here in Vrindavan. He was wandering around the 12 forests, and one of his dear friends was with him, Bhugarbha Goswami, who was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit. At one time, in a place called Chhatravan, in the district of little village, actually, of Umarao, Lokanath Goswami was living. There's beautiful stories about that place. When Krishna was personally living here 5,000 years ago in his manifested Leela, in Chhatravan, he declared himself to be the king of the whole Braj Bhumi, especially that area. He was just a small boy with his friends. And he told his friends, you go out and declare that everyone in this Chhatravan area, that they must accept me as the king. And if anyone picks any flowers without my permission, they will be punished. So the cowherd boys were declaring this. And they were inviting all the Brijabasis to come and support Krishna as the king. And Krishna was sitting on a little throne in the forest there. And Madhu Mangal, he was very enthusiastic. He was proclaiming, Krishna's the king of Kshatravan. Everybody must accept this. And some of Sri Radharani's dear friends, Lalita Saki, Vishaka Saki, when they heard Madhu Mangal saying like this, they told him, no. Srimati Radharani, she's the queen of Vrindavan. And she's in a place called Umrao. She's taking the role of the prince of Vrindavan. And they dressed Radharani up as a prince. And she was sitting on her little throne. And they decided that nobody can declare himself to be a king without the blessings of the prince. So Brinda Devi made weapons out of little sticks. And thousands of gopis went to attack Krishna and the cowherd boys. And when the cowherd boys saw the gopis coming, chanting the glories of Sri Radha, Subal and all of them ran away. But they caught Madhu Mangal. They tied his hands up with a flower garland and brought him right before Srimati Radharani, who was the prince of Umrao. And they declared to Madhu Mangal that she is the queen, she is the prince, and no one has a right to take any title without her blessings. How should we punish you? And Madhu Mangal, very humble before Srimati Radharani and the gopis, because there were thousands of them, and he was all alone. He said, very boldly, he said, you should punish me by filling my stomach with prasad. And Radharani said to Lalita, she said, what is the use of keeping a useless Brahmin like this here? A useless Brahmin, the only thing he wants to do is fill his belly. Just let him go. So they let him go, but his hands were still tied up with a flower garland. Now, you may think a flower garland, you just go, yes? It was just, there wasn't ropes. It was, because they didn't even use strings in those days. They just had special ways of making the flowers together. And they would use natural strings from vines to bring them together. The strength of that garland was the bhakti in which it was put around him. So he was helpless. So he was very much afraid. And he went back to Krishna. And Krishna saw him tied up. He said, what happened to you, Madhu Mangal? What happened to you? And Madhu Mangal said that Sri Radharani is declaring to be the prince. And you have no right to have any role without her blessings. And Krishna said, well, I'm seeing that you're in so much anxiety. I'll do anything you say. What should I do? Madhu Mangal said, you should surrender to Srimati Radharani. So Krishna went. And when Sri Radha saw him coming, she became so ecstatic and uncomfortable in the role of a prince. But her friend said, no, you stay like this. And she was sitting on her throne. And the gopis brought Krishna and put him on the throne next to her. And then everybody very happily singing together performed kirtan of the holy name. All of these beautiful pastimes are various creative expressions of pure love, because the ultimate happiness of a devotee is to see the happiness that Radha, Govinda share with each other. And that happiness is unlimited. When we take our happiness is in Krishna's giving his love to Sri Radha and Radha's giving her love to Krishna, then our happiness becomes unlimited. And that is the eternal nature of the soul. So it was in that forest that Lokanath Goswami was living, meditating on these wonderful pastimes. And he was alone most of the time. And by Krishna's arrangement, a desire awakened within his heart. He desired to have a murti, the holy Archa Vigraha, to worship with love. In the Western world, and sometimes even these days in India, people think that deities are idols. Srila Prabhupada explains, Krishna is the ultimate creator of all existence. The whole material existence is his energy. And if he wants to manifest himself personally, to receive the love and give his love through his energy to his devotee in whatever form he wishes, it is absolutely the truth that he does so. And the greatest acharyas had their Ishtadev, their worshipable deities. Lokanath Goswami wanted to have that loving exchange. But in those days, there was no Loy Bazaar. We buy deities. Vrindavan was a forest. Where do you get a deity? He was just sitting in this lonely forest near a place called Kishori Kund, which is one of Radharani's most favorite places. And one day when he was thinking like this, a beautiful looking Brahmin walked up to him, did not say a single word, but gave him a bag. Inside was a deity of Krishna. Lokanath Goswami looked at the deity of Krishna and then looked to thank the Brahmin and ask him who he was. The Brahmin was gone. He disappeared. Lokanath Goswami was in ecstasy. He started to weep. Krishna's here, but he was so confused. Who was that Brahmin? And what am I going to do? And how is this happening? And then the deity spoke to him. He said, "My name is Radha Vinod. And I have been living in this area of Umrao for a long time, just waiting for you. And without the help of anyone else, I personally brought myself to you." Which means Radha Vinod actually incarnated as that Brahmin to give himself to Lokanath Goswami. And then Radha Vinod said, I'm hungry, feed me. Lokanath Goswami went and begged for some food, made a fire, cooked bhoga, made a little altar out of stones and wood, whatever was there, and made the offering. And after making the offering, he made a bed out of flowers and leaves and put Radha Vinod in his bed. And for many hours, Radha Vinod's small-sized murti, Lokanath Goswami was massaging his feet, massaging his legs. He made a fan out of leaves and was fanning him. He somehow or other begged and got some cloth and made another bag out of that cloth, and that became Radha Vinod's home. Because as Lokanath Goswami would travel, he would have that cloth and wear it around his neck. And Radha Vinod was always pressed against his heart. Sometimes during the rainy season, the rain was pouring in torrents as monsoons. And the village people asked Lokanath Goswami, let us build you a temple, let us build you a home. He said, no, I will not live in any home. There was a tree. It was a very ancient Kalpavriksha tree, and it was hollow inside. So he kept Radha Vinod in the hollow of the tree and would offer all of his worship to the deity in the tree, and he would be outside, subjected to all the rain and all the cold. He didn't just tolerate the difficulty. He gratefully accepted it because he had the opportunity to serve his beloved. As he was traveling in this area, sometimes he lived very close to Chatravan in the forest of Kadiravan. In fact, I believe there is bhajan kutirs of the places where Bhugarva Goswami and Lokanath Goswami would do their bhajan in Kadiravan. And he would meditate upon Krishna's leelas there. The Srimad Bhagavatam explains one beautiful story. And our acharyas have given in their commentaries many wonderful realizations of this story. May I tell? Thank you. After Krishna left Mahavan, because Putana, Trinavarta, Shakatasura, and Nalakuvara Manigriva, the twin Arjuna trees, fell down. So many things were happening there that they were thinking, this is not a safe place. So Nanda and Yashoda with the other cowherd men, Upananda, Abhinanda, Nanda, they all decided we should go to the forest of Vrindavan. And near Bandiravan, Kamsa sent an asura in the form of a calf named Vatsasura. And Krishna twirled him around and threw him on the ground. Maybe we'll discuss that another day. When the news came to Mathura that Krishna had killed Putana, Trinavarta, Sakatasura, and now he's killed Vatsasura. Kamsa, his eyes began to flutter uncontrollably, and he fainted. How is it possible for any small child to kill Vatsasura? He was immensely powerful. But then the ministers of Kamsa said, there's only one solution. We have to send Bakasura to kill him. And Kamsa became really enthusiastic. Bakasura. He is the cruelest. He is the cruelest of all the asuras. And not only that, but he was Kamsa's best friend, who was willing to live and die for Kamsa. So Kamsa was very enlivened, ecstatic. Yes, let us send Bakasura. So Krishna was herding his calves with the little gopas. They were in Vrindavan. The calves were jumping around and playing, and the children, gopas, were jumping around and playing in so many ways, and the boys were taking the calves to better, very luscious grassy areas to eat the grass, and take them into these beautiful kunds to drink the crystal sparkling nectarine waters. And one day, after playing for many hours and drinking nice refreshing water, they saw something that was extraordinary. It was never there before. Because Vrindavan was one of their favorite playing places. But now they were seeing this immense mountain. And it was like a white mountain. It was huge. And the boys were thinking, what could this be? This is bigger than Mount Kailash. But it seems to be moving. So they were with Krishna. They were fearless. And they were curious. So they started coming closer and closer, and they saw that it was a breathing mountain. And they were talking amongst each other. They saw that he seems to have this long neck, and the neck is kind of down, and there's a massive, gigantic, razor-sharp beak. This is a massive bird. It's a crane. And as they came closer, Bakasura roared. And with his gigantic beak, he attacked Krishna. In fact, he just closed his beak around Krishna, and Krishna kind of jumped inside, and he swallowed Krishna. When Krishna was inside this massive asura, the cowherd boys, even Balaram, fainted. They were in total